Something special.
Hi friends, welcome back or welcome to Friends in High Places podcast. I got Cole joining me again today.
Oh, we back, baby. I always want to do the high friends part with you in the beginning.
Well, you could have.
Maybe next time,
So we're just gonna chill and chat and, I don't know, update you guys on what's been going on with us and hang out.
Just another chill episode. We did have a few things happen in our lives since we spoke last and since I was on the pod. So here we are to talk about it. And thank you guys for tuning in every week. And let's get to it.
Yeah, well, it's May. And
which is crazy, by the way. It feels like shit is just blown right by.
I know. Honestly, like months go by like weeks and weeks go by like days.
Like I thought it was 420 yesterday.
Like seriously. It's
now
crazy.
It's like what, May 4th or something like that?
Yep, May the 4th be with you.
There it is. I didn't say that specifically for the meme either. Like I didn't point it out just because. I just want to make that clear. That wasn't like a sneaky segue. You know what I mean? But it's just crazy. Time's been flying for sure.
Well, May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes.
And it's definitely something that should be talked about.
Yes, something we're both advocates for, that's for sure.
Yeah, so happy Mental Health Awareness Month. And I mean, my last episode was very based on mental health and my own mental health struggle.
And I'm sure you guys saw my posts about her last episode, but I'm so proud of Carissa for opening up the way she did and just being so vulnerable on the last episode. It's really hard to be honest about these kind of things, and not to cut you off here, babe, but I just think it's really important, especially this year and last year, to talk about mental health even more during Mental Health Awareness Month, just because of the current state of the world, especially in Canada where we are, because a lot of places aren't in lockdown like we are anymore.
Yeah.
Just because financially people are in a strange place, being stuck at home can give you nothing but time to overthink things and put you in a bad mental place. And I just think that even more than ever, it's important to talk about mental health. And obviously you and I are both people that are in the spotlight that admit we have our own fair share of mental health issues, and I'm just glad that we can use your platform as a place where we can talk about that and just let people know they're not alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too. And being in self-isolation during this pandemic and just having to stay home more than usual, definitely you have to be alone with your own thoughts, and that can really take a toll on you. So
100%.
Just know if you're having a hard time during this pandemic, like I think a lot of us are, you're not alone, and it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to have bad days, and sometimes they can take over, and that's just kind of the mental health struggle and fight all in itself.
Yeah, I made a post the other day actually that said, basically, I feel like we all have our own fair share of mental health issues, only some of us are willing to admit it. I don't want to say strong enough to admit it, because I don't feel like if you don't admit it, you're not strong.
No.
But I feel like all of us, to a point, deal with these kind of things, and I feel like if all of us were more honest about it, all of us would have a lot easier of a time. Because I understand that some people find shame in the fact that they deal with mental health issues, and it affects their pride, so they don't talk about it very much.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like if everybody that did struggle and does struggle with these things talked about it more vocally, that we would all be pleasantly surprised to know that we're not alone. So
yeah, I agree, but it does also take time to learn about your own mental health struggle, and I don't know, it's only been 3 years that I've actually known about my own.
I've watched you develop yours since we've been together.
You know what I mean? And just I never knew that's what I'd been struggling with pretty much my whole life until I did some more research on my own self and feelings and stuff, right? So sometimes it can take 25 years for you to realize that you are struggling mentally, and that's okay too, because I mean self-growth is an ongoing process and an ongoing thing, and just the more time that you take to kind of do your own research, explore your own mind and thoughts, and it just kind of can hit you at random points in your life. So, I mean, if you're somebody who maybe doesn't realize that you are going through some mental health struggles and figure it out later on in life, I mean, that's still good. And
that's the scary part for a lot of people, is they don't know that that's what they're going through.
Exactly.
They just think that they're going crazy. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I hate even using that word, but like that's really how people feel when they're not aware that these things do happen and that it's very common, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I just think it's definitely something that should be talked about more. I feel like it's getting normalized more and more as days go on and time goes on, but it's still something that, like you were just saying, some people struggle with talking about. So if we can encourage people to talk about it by talking about our own, that's, I think, a really good thing we can both use with our platforms. And you know, you do it through your music, I'm trying to do it through the podcast, and yeah, it's just something that we need to continue breaking that stigma, and especially, you know, for your own personal self, but like I mentioned in my solo episode, like within your relationship, it's a big thing to communicate, talk about, discuss, and work on together.
COVID's been a big relationship tester for a lot of people
100%.
too. And I think it's also important that we make it clear that mental health isn't just one box. Like there's so many boxes to check there. Like you and I, for example, both struggle with mental health issues, but our direct mental health issues are on two opposite sides of the spectrum. Like mine is anxiety, being a hypochondriac, and depression. Which, I mean, not to say that you haven't suffered from anxiety, being a hypochondriac or depression, because I've seen you suffer with that as well. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, yours is OCD. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just, and then there's PTSD, which I've struggled with. There's bipolar. There's so many different forms of it that I don't want everyone to think that like, oh, I'm having a bad day, so this must be mental health. Like maybe it is, and I'm sure that affects you, but I just want people to know there's so many different forms of it. Yeah. And it's important to know, basically just which exact one you feel like you may be going through so that you can address it and get the right help. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and even like I also said this on my solo, like you can be somebody who has OCD, but you have OCD way different than I have OCD.
Even that, exactly.
Yeah, even anxiety alone. Your panic attacks, your anxiety attacks are different than somebody else who has anxiety and panic attacks and anxiety attacks. Like, it's just crazy. And yeah, that word really
wired differently, for sure.
Yeah. And I don't like saying crazy either when it comes to mental health, because I'm not trying to say people with mental health are crazy, but it is crazy how wide the spectrum is and how different mental health struggle labels can affect people differently. You know, It's not all just by the book. Like if you have bipolar, every single person who has bipolar struggles this exact same way, right? Or OCD or what have you kind of thing. But yeah, definitely should be talked about, want to continue talking about it, and yeah, I just wanted to bring up the fact that it is Mental Health Awareness Month.
And I respect that you're using your platform to talk about it.
Yeah, trying to, as much as I can. I know it's not everyone's forte to sit there and listen to people talk about their mental health struggle, but...
That's the thing though, is the people that act like it's not their forte probably are going through a little bit of it themselves, and... it's hard for them to admit.
True.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
There's a lot of people
haven't realized.
Exactly. There's a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast alone and relate to it more than they would be willing to admit in a room full of people. And I think that's the important part. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. And there's so many different things in life that I think have affected people's mental health in so many different ways, like social media and obviously the pandemic, like we've already mentioned, but I do think social media is a big thing. Comparison is a fucking bitch, and
social media is a double-edged sword, because just as much as it can affect your mental health in a negative way, it can also be positive, in the sense that you can see that other people are going through what you're going through, and you can use social media as a platform to understand that other people are going through what you're going through. Mm-hmm. But like you said, whether it's just like the body shaming and the comparisons and the bullying and the things that happen on the internet, sometimes I feel like the negative really starts to outweigh the positive. And
but it's also hard because some people use social media as a way to like fuel themselves and make themselves feel better.
For sure, totally.
But then it can also, like you said, double-edged sword. It can also damage them if they get so caught up in other people's likes or how they look on their social media platform and followers and all that kind of stuff, which is really sad. And, you know, it's just another thing that people are learning can really affect us, right?
For sure.
Like the fact that they were trying to take away being able to see people's likes and stuff. That was a big reason for it.
I still can't see people's likes.
Yeah, it popped up on my Instagram.
Some days it'll come up for like an hour or two and then disappear again. It's strange.
Well, there's this new thing that's happening, and it just happened on mine. It was a little notification thing when I logged onto my Instagram, and it said, see people's likes or continue hiding people's likes.
Oh, so it gave you the option.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I think that's a new setting. But
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, but kind of takes away from this experiment they were doing.
It does, because then it's like the people that are like, that would benefit from not seeing it
Yeah,
are still going to say that they want to see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's just how it is. But yeah, so again, happy Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
And it's okay to not be okay, and keep talking mental health. And I will continue to do so on the podcast. Cole will continue to do so in his music. And we're here if you need anything.
Yeah, I agree. And I just do want to say one more quick thing before we move on from that topic. Yeah. One thing that I say on stage all the time is, like, if you start to accept it as part of who you are, you'll notice things start to get better. I'm no like doctor. I can't tell you like all the cures for mental health and the cures for every kind of mental health, but I did find in my own case that once I accepted it as part of who I am, I used to hate the fact that it was there. And then once over time I realized that I accepted it as part of who I am, I noticed it really started to help me a lot. And I also say to people that suffer from the same kind of anxiety as I do is that I would have made a lot of bad decisions, and I think I've even said this on this pod before, but like I would have made a lot of really terrible decisions if I didn't have anxiety, because my anxiety makes me double, triple, quadruple think things.
Right.
And with that being said, there is positive sides to this. If you really like dig deep enough, you'll start to notice that the fact that you overthink so many things sometimes works in your favor. So
yeah,
it is what it is. But like Carissa said, everybody keep talking mental health. It's okay to not be okay. And yeah, like I said, thanks for giving me the platform to talk about it, and I'm proud of you for doing the same. So
thank you. Well, another thing we were talking about touching base on is your Merc Mondays and how you have decided to not put something out the last couple of weeks. And yeah, I thought you could just update people on what's going on. And
I don't want anybody to think that Chris and I just packed up and moved to the woods and disappeared. I'm still like definitely trying to I'm definitely trying to get as much stuff done. The thing is like, even when I'm not working, I'm working. So if it looks like, oh well, Merc hasn't dropped a Merc Monday this week and now it's week 2, like what the heck is going on? Like even during those times, we're working on a million different things behind the scenes that are for the fans and for the fans' best interests. So just know there's a lot of big things coming. I also realized that as much as I love doing the Merc Mondays, I don't want to like drown you guys in so much new material that there's things you miss. Like even in my own friend group, I'll talk to my friends and be like, hey, or they'll hit me up and say, hey man, like I really like this specific song you did, and I'm like, oh thanks man, I'm like, you should check this one out, I'm really proud of this one. And the reason I send that to my friends is because I respect their opinions. And I've started to notice even in like my friends and family group that there's stuff that they're even missing because it's an every week thing that they can't even keep up. So I think giving us the 2 weeks to breathe is actually beneficial. I know that you guys want as much content as possible, and I love that about you guys, that you want the quantity and the quality. And I love giving you the quantity and the quality, but I think that it was refreshing to take the 2 week break. We do have some really cool planned for next Monday, which you guys will see when next Monday arrives. And just a whole bunch of other crazy bangers that we're working on with a lot of big name artists that's going to blow your socks off. So I'm excited to get there eventually too, but that's basically why we've taken the 2 week break. Thank you to everyone for being so understanding. I try to give you guys as much free content as I can and keep you as entertained as possible during this pandemic. And for those of you that aren't in lockdown, that I mean, just in general, I try to keep you guys entertained. But I appreciate you guys understanding, and lots more to come. So.
Well, and it's okay to take a break. I mean, I feel like people understand that you're human, and you know you may need some time to just like mentally clear yourself out and kind of be fresh. And
I'm not gonna lie, babe. Like, I'm sorry not to cut you off. I've gotten messages from people being like, "What the fuck, bro? It's Monday. How dare you?" Like,
well, of
like
course,
getting legitimately mad. And it's like, if those people don't understand that I'm a person outside of like putting my cape on and being Mercules, that there is a guy named Cole there that needs to live his life, then it's like, as much as I love having fans that are that passionate about me dropping something every week, if they can't understand that I'm me outside of all this and that I do have my own personal life, then that's their loss at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and like even like I understand, because trying to get an episode out every week, I thought when I first started the podcast, like, fuck, that's easy. You got 7 days in between each one. But man, those 7 days fly by so quickly that it's like, oh shit, it's fucking Sunday and I need to get recording. I need to get prepared and stuff. So that's just an episode, let alone a song that takes time to either find a feature, to find what you want to be putting out and get it mixed and mastered, and finding a beat and writing it and all that. Like, there's so much more to it as well, that it's like not just easy to bang them out all the time so quickly. And I mean, some weeks you're in the studio for, you know, days back to back because you're on a roll and you're like, fuck yeah, I know what I want to do, and you're writing and going, and it's great. But then there are some weeks where it's like, you know, you're gonna have writer's block. You're gonna have those kind of moments where it's like, well, fuck, I'm not feeling any of these beats, or I'm not in the groove, and that's okay too. That's just being a human, right? And especially a creative process, it takes time, and you don't want to rush things like that, because you don't want to just be putting stuff out because you feel like you have to. And I think fans that are truly your supporters are going to appreciate that and respect that. I mean, the 1 week I didn't put out a podcast and I was like feeling so shitty about it, you know, I had quite a few people message me and be like, dude, you're human. Like, it's fine. It's, you know, we understand that.
Well, it's refreshing to hear that from your supporters.
Yeah, and that's just like my small little podcast platform. So, you know, I feel like there's thousands of people that feel that same way towards you and your music and stuff. So.
And I appreciate you understanding that, but I got two things to say about that. Like, first of all, don't discredit yourself, because like you just said, like, oh, like, with the pod is one thing, but I can't imagine like making a song. Like, me getting writer's block on the days where I just can't seem to get in the right creative space to make a song or to be creative. It's just like the days where maybe you wake up and you're like, oh, I got to meet this deadline for a pod, but I'm really just not in the mood, or I'm feeling down right now, or I'm just like, you know what I mean? Or I have other things that I have to do. It's just like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. And doing these podcasts, as much as some people may not understand this, like, you do have to be very creative, because you have to keep people entertained. You have to think about either current topics that you are passionate about, that you believe in, that you want to talk about, or just tell people like just updates on your lives. Like, and I know that we do that, and that's great, but I'm just saying, like, you do have to be very creative to do these podcasts, just like I have to be creative to make the music. And the days that I have writer's block are like the days where you might have something else going on and have to meet that same deadline. So don't discredit yourself.
Well,
and I forgot what my second point was.
I'm sure it'll come back to you.
Yeah, it probably will, like 3 topics down the road.
And that's okay. Well, I just thought it would be nice to touch base, for you to touch base with everyone, what was going on with the Merc Mondays.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I appreciate you letting me clear the air there.
But yeah, we got lots of stuff going on behind the scenes that are really exciting, and lots of work being done. And it's gonna be a good next few months, that's for sure.
Speaking of behind the scenes, I feel like we should just take a quick moment to shout out Mac and Sonic, just for all the hard work they do behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's the podcast crew. Yeah, I brought them up in my solo episode, but 100%
no, I know you
they
did,
should
but
be
I
brought
just
up
feel
again.
like we should talk about them all the time, because they're awesome, and they work their ass off, and they're going to probably hear this in the editing process anyway.
Yeah.
But so shout out to Mac and Sonic. Just like how when I make my music, there's NATO and there's Sealance and all these other people involved. Everybody thinks that the person that has the spotlight does it all, but there's really like a whole team of people making these things happen. So shout out to Mac and Sonic for sure. Just wanted to say that real quick.
I'm always so nervous because Mac's like literally the first person to hear my episodes. If he does listen to them when he's uploading them or whatever, like besides you, or sometimes I'll send it to my mom. And I'm always like, oh my God, like Mac's just listening to like either me and Tommy just chit chat or me and Lacey just chit chat or like the 421. I was like, oh my God, is he going to be sitting there like fucking stoners, like whatever. But he's always so good and he's always so great. And especially with my solo one, he sent me a really nice message and I really appreciated it. And it's just nice to have somebody who isn't like super close to me and has known me for so long to listen to my episodes and give me that feedback.
Judgy either.
No, not judgy at all. And yeah, it's just nice. And yeah, I appreciate both of you, Mac and Sonic. Thank you so much for everything you do. And I'm really excited for the future for all of us. And thank you, babe, for connecting all of us.
100%. Excuse me, my throat today. Jesus. Pause.
So another thing that's happened is Cole decided to go to the skate park a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I still had it, which I do. I'm pretty proud of myself. Like I put some weight on in quarantine, so I was like pretty nervous about being able to skate. Skateboarding is something I'm extremely passionate about. Even if I'm not on a skateboard, I'm watching everything going on in skateboard culture. I grew up with a lot of people that have gone pro that are friends of mine to this day. A friend that I've made recently actually is Andy Anderson. So if anybody in the skateboard world is listening to this, they'll know who that is. So shout out to Andy. But yeah, so I went to the skate park just in hopes that I still had it, just to kind of like test the waters. I went with my bro Golden.
Shout out Golden.
Most of you guys know him as Golden BSP. That's my bro. And we just went to the skate park to fuck around. And it was funny because we went there and like, of course, some people know who I am. So it's like, oh, is that Mercules? But like, it was just so funny being the old guy with the skateboard, especially like the heavy set old guy. And like all these little ass kids.
The dad of the skate park.
Straight up. Like and all these little kids just absolutely fucking crushing it. Like, just doing all this crazy shit, and I'm like, these little fuckers. And then I was like just warmed up, so I'd skate from one side of the park to the other side. I could still drop in. I did a front side feeble on the quarter pipe, which I was pretty proud of.
Whatever
Most
the
people
fuck
don't know
that
what the
means.
fuck that is, but people that skate know what that is. And then what happened was I was wearing shoes that weren't skate shoes, and they were hella loose. So I went down the ramp. Like I went down the one thing, and then I went over the nipple, and then on my way down, my back, I know, pause. And then my back foot slipped off the tail of the skateboard and then slid, and then and then my shoe fucking literally went flying. I had holes in the bottom of my socks from just like my foot dragging, and I did the split so fucking bad that like my ball sack touched the concrete. Like, I'm not even kidding, guys. Like, it was insane. Like, and you can ask Goldie. Goldie was like, dude, if we would have got that on film, like, you would have been so fucking viral. I ended up like scraping my knee super bad. Yeah. But when I came home, like, I sent Carissa a picture of my knee all bloody, and she was like, oh my God, like, just make sure when you get home you take care of it. But she didn't know the extent of the injury. So when I came home, like, I was literally walking in the door limping, passed out that night, woke up the next day and literally couldn't even walk. Like, it was that bad.
Yeah, I had no idea. He sends me the picture. I'm like, ooh, ouch, that looks like really bad road burn. Like, fuck yeah, we got to clean that when you get home. And I had no idea that he'd like done the splits and fucked up his legs. And
the leg that I cut, and like I put a lot of this on Instagram. Like, you guys probably saw pictures of my knee because I'm a weirdo and I posted it. Yeah. But my other leg was the one that hurt more just because of like the muscle pain. Yeah. Like, the one that I scraped was whatever, and like the scrape is pretty much healed now, but it was bad. Yeah. And then it was right after that, I was just like, okay, I just need to accept the fact that I'm almost 30 years old. I'm far too large to be on a skateboard. And maybe in the future when I lose the amount of weight that I plan on losing, I can get back on. But right now I need to put the skateboard away for a bit.
Well, I think you just need to practice in like the driveway and kind of on flat surfaces.
When you're 30 years old, you know how funny that sounds. Like, I'm 28, but you know what I mean.
Well,
like,
but I mean, that's like...
Practice in the driveway. It's like...
Yeah, but you're like getting back on it. It's not like you've been skateboarding the last like 6 years I've been with you.
It just reminds me of like when my mom's like, oh, when I was a little kid, oh, when the street lights go out or turn on, you gotta come inside.
No, you know what I mean? No, I just think you need to warm up and practice a little more and then venture off again to the skate park and then start doing that. But yeah, so that was a little bit of a situation and yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, good times.
So Yeah, I don't really know.
Speaking of things that we've been working on behind the scenes, it doesn't always involve directly the podcast or directly the music. I mean, it does in a sense, but there's other creative processes that go on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So I've recently started to like really care more and more about my merch. When I say my merch, I mean like obviously not to say that I haven't had a hand in all the other merch that we've put out, but I'm starting to really think like, you know what, like I want to be more involved and like more understanding of like how the process is and like be there more when it comes to like the actual design process. And Carissa has also stepped up and been like, so do I. And she's a lot more, I'd say, has a better eye for certain things than I do in that space. And recently, Eli, shout out to my manager, Eli, another person who works very, very hard behind the scenes, and Carissa have come together and they've been designing a lot of my merch, specifically like the ladies' merch, but I'm sure you'll be doing a lot of the guys' merch as well. And they've been just kind of planning and coming up with different designs together. And Carissa's kind of like taking that role on as well, which is nice. I mean, even though it involves my career, it's another one of those things that can kind of be her baby that she can just do. And like, obviously I have a say in it, but at the same time, like it's just another project for her. So I'm really stoked about that. So in the near future, a lot of these designs that are going to come out and these pieces that are going to come out, you'll know were designed by her. And yeah, I'm just really excited and stoked about it. For those of you that don't know, like the ladies flip-flops we did, the pink ones and the red ones too, I believe, right? You did the red too? Yeah. So Carissa like just picked those colorways of those flip-flops. They've been doing great. For everybody that's wondering, if you want to check out any of the merch that we have now, it's merculesmusic.com, merkulesmusic.com. But with all that being said, yeah, just stoked that she's stepping up and being a part of that. And yeah, it's just awesome that she has like another little venture that she can call her own. And it's going to be rad, so.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Eli and I had a really good meeting and did some brainstorming and discussing.
I slept the entire meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm super stoked. We talked about near future, far future, and it's going to be really fun. And he was really like stoked to have me a part of the process, so that made me really excited. I've really been interested in helping Cole with his merch for quite a while. Yeah. I just didn't really want to like step on toes, or you know, if he was happy with what was being designed and made up, I wasn't going to be like, oh well, I have a better idea.
You're just too nice for your own good. Like he would never be intruding. It was just like, but I understand like how you are like that. But no, it would have been fine.
Well, yeah, but anyways, so Eli kind of opened the door with the female merch line, because doing the flip-flops, you know, I said to him, the girls need something, the females need something, and not that Cole's...
Desperately.
Yeah, and not that Cole's merch hasn't been, like, gender neutral, because I know a lot of the girls out there rep it, and it's awesome, and it's great, and love it. But I do feel like it could use a little bit of a girl, more female twist in line to it. So yeah, I'm really excited about doing that. And then we also got into the conversation of maybe some Friends in High Places merch, which would be really cool. Yes. I didn't know if it was a little too soon for that, because to me it still feels like this podcast is brand new, and I don't want to like jump right into the deep end being like, oh, here's a podcast, boom, now I'm making merch, and I think
you're definitely at the point where merch is necessary.
Well, I'm hoping so. So I do want to hear back from the listeners what you guys think about merch and what kind of merch you would be interested in having or seeing. And yeah, you know, it's really fun. I really enjoy doing the podcast. I enjoy recording, but it would be really cool to turn it into, you know, like a brand or a business. Totally. And not that money is a big thing that I was like, oh, I'm going to start this podcast and make so much money off of it, because that's not my goal. It's just, you know, if people are interested, then why not? And for sure, it would be fun. And yeah, so you guys let me know what you think about merch, and even if you have some suggestions for Cole's merch, like, totally, you know, hit me 100%. Up and let me know any ideas, anything you guys would love to see, you'd love to wear. Yeah. So
the listeners and the fans' opinions are the most important opinions. So
100%.
Definitely don't be shy.
Yes.
Drop all the comments below and let us know your thoughts for sure, 100%. But we're both excited to just step our merch game up and Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, so there's a lot happening behind the scenes with all that. A lot of planning, a lot of meetings and stuff like that.
Organization in general.
Yeah, I'm trying to make our household more structured and organized. I got a little whiteboard calendar that
Let me cut you off. She was so fucking excited about this calendar. She's like, I'm ordering this calendar and this whiteboard, and it's going to be fucking sick. And then it shows up at our house the same day. And she's like, oh, babe, like, look at this. And, like, it was, like, magnetic and had, like, all these funky markers and shit. And she was just so stoked on it. And it's, like, so cute, me watching, like, just the little things that make her so excited. But, yeah, so she's been killing it with that. Filled out a calendar, kind of just trying to, like, structure our days a little bit better. Obviously, find time for ourselves within those busy days too. Like, okay, we'll do this day, this that day, this day we just relax and do absolutely fucking nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, which is also important because obviously if you just go,
you're gonna burn out.
You're gonna burn out, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just she's been working really hard to help organize our lives, and thank God she's doing it because I would have no way of doing it. I'm the most least organized person on planet Earth, and anybody that knows me knows that about me, and it's something that I'm willing to admit.
Yeah, it can be a little difficult some days, but we're doing better. We're getting better. And I didn't fill up every day with like a million things to do. It was just like little things on each day so it doesn't seem like overwhelming. Exactly. And yeah, it's just fun. Fun to be organized, fun to be structured, and I'm loving it. Especially with doing, recording, podcasts, behind the scenes stuff, designing merch. I have Tippy Toes, the cleaning company. I'm just trying to get things a little bit down packed and scheduled so I'm not spiraling. Let's be honest.
and like, to your defense too, like, and I'm the same way. I don't struggle with OCD really. I do in some ways, I guess I should say, but I think it just makes a lot more sense when somebody like you or somebody like me has it in front of them to see it there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if it's all in your head and you're like, oh my God, I have this to do, I have that to do, I have this to do, you just fucking drown yourself in like fucking anxiety.
Yeah, it's like having a checklist. As soon as you can check those things off.
But when you see it in front of you, it like kind of like lifts a certain amount of weight off your shoulders.
Yes.
And you're like, you know what? I can tackle this. I should have, like, now that I see it in front of me and it all makes sense and it's all a timeline, it just makes things easier for sure. So.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
But speaking of those days off where we're not doing absolutely anything, what have we been watching that we should talk about?
Well, just like a lot of people in the world, we've been watching The Circle on Netflix. Cole loves The Circle.
No disrespect to anybody that's a part of The Circle, but I'm going to call it this just because this is what I consider. I absolutely love trash TV. When I say trash TV, like, I'm not even afraid to admit it. I'm watching Jersey Shore with Carissa when Jersey Shore matters.
Yeah.
I'm watching these Teen Mom and shit like this. And I fucking find myself so invested in these shows that really don't fucking matter to a point where, like, I'm obsessing over it more than Carissa is. And she's the girl. You know what I mean?
Hey, not saying that only females can.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, like, shows that people wouldn't consider as masculine. Yeah. I'm like very invested in.
But like,
I'm like, oh my God, did fucking Tina cheat on Trevor? Those are two random names, but it's like.
Yeah, but you're so invested that you find these people on social media and like hit them up because he has a blue check mark. He knows that most likely 99% of the time these people are going to hit him back. So then he's like, oh, I messaged Big Ed off a 90 Day Fiance. Oh, I messaged Jack off of The Circle and he replied.
And they do, yeah.
And it's funny. It's great.
I've actually built like decent relationships with some of these people from these shows.
I know.
But you never see like on my Instagram. Like, it's not something I'm promoting because it's just me genuinely being a fan of these garbage TV shows. But yeah, no, it's funny. Like when I think we talked about this, but when what's that show called? It was How to Make a Murderer or whatever.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, I don't think that's the title, but I'm sure when you guys hear that, you know what I'm talking about. Like, I went and found their family members on Facebook and messaged them for like
what's that guy's name?
More info about like the show and like what actually happened because it was based on a true story. It was like a documentary style thing. Making a Murderer, that's what it was called. Yeah. And I like messaged people in their family on Facebook.
Yeah, like
to like deep dive to get more details.
Like cousins and aunties and uncles and like
one of them was a rapper.
Yeah, and one night he just stayed up all night doing it, and I woke up the next morning and he's like, oh, babe, so-and-so hit me back, and it's like John's cousin's brother, and like, oh, I'm like, what? why are you doing this?
Basically, I need an intervention when it comes to trash TV.
Because I need to know more information. Like, he's in jail and he shouldn't be in jail. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, it's bad. But
Yeah,
no,
it's funny.
the circle's basically, for those of you that don't know, a show where they take a bunch of random people, they put them in separate rooms. Their only means of communication is through a TV, where they're either pretending to be someone else, like catfishing, or they're being their genuine selves. And once a week, it's all through text. Like, there's no video. They don't see each other. It's just literally a profile and text. And every week they vote somebody out. And the whole goal is to be the last person standing. And if you are the last person standing, you win $100,000. That's like a very point form version of explaining the show.
Yeah.
And then 90 Day Fiance, I'm sure most of you have seen it online or on TV. And it's basically just like...
TLC.
It's on TLC, and it's like couples that are like meeting online, like on different parts of the world, and like meeting in real life, and you watch them talk online, and then you watch them finally make the trip to see each other, and then you find out if they're a catfish or if they're real, and then you find out if they're just in the relationship to get a K-1 visa and try to move to America, or you see if like it's a genuine like thing, and it's just...
Cole's obsessed.
I'm obsessed.
He loves it. And we went through a phase of 90 Day Fiance right
year.
before COVID hit. We were watching it in
Yeah.
Europe, in Amsterdam, when you were still in recovery mode. And Cole was just like obsessed with it, and I enjoyed it too, but he was really obsessed with it. And then we took a break because we were having a hard time finding the episodes online. And then like a week ago or something, we were trying to find something to watch and couldn't find anything. And so finally I look at Cole and I'm like, what about 90 Day Fiance? What's going on in that world? And he's like, oh my God, yes, let's fucking do it. And then he just...
And then I went online and was trying to find like episodes and found out that there's a whole new version of it, which is called The Single Life, where the people that had previously been on the show that aren't in relationships because their 90 Day Fiance or whatever didn't work out. Now you get to watch them like be single and pursue like new relationships. And it's just my bread and butter.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's just... So that's what we've been watching.
It's the fucking best.
Yeah, Cole loves it.
Anyway, enough about my obsession with trash television. I'm sure we can move on at this point. With that being said, as you guys know, we always have a portion on here where we go on Instagram and we ask you guys to ask us questions that you might want us to answer. And we also do like a confession portion where you can confess to us and tell us your dirtiest secrets, and everybody will remain anonymous. So with that being said, babe, are you down to get into that or what?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so... first of all, this is the only person that we're going to actually name by name that won't remain anonymous, which is my mother-in-law, Carissa's mom, Michelle. What up? Michelle asks, first of all, we love you, Michelle.
Love you, Mom.
Michelle asks, do either of you have any phobias? I personally can't say I think I have a specific phobia. There's things that freak me out for sure, like big-ass spiders and like shit that I feel like just bothers anybody, like the average person. And I'm also kind of scared of heights, but I don't really feel like it's considered a phobia. Babe, if you have anything that you would say is like a phobia that you actually have, maybe touch base on it.
I have a weird fear of driving, so I don't drive. I have a weird fear of explosions. And I don't like to be in water where I can't touch. So I don't know if they're phobias, but I was told in a reading that I got done that I have over like 65 past lives. And that's probably where those...
You've seen some shit.
That's probably where those fears have come from. And yeah, so I guess those would be my phobias.
Yeah, I'd say like out of the things that you mentioned, just being your partner, I'd say that like probably driving is the most to me that I would say is like a legit actual phobia of yours.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, neither of us drive, neither of us have our license, but with me it's just based on pure laziness, whereas Chris actually has like a fear of driving. And yeah, so I would say personally, just in my opinion, that would be like the closest thing to a real phobia for you.
Yeah, probably.
But shout out to Michelle for the loaded question.
She asked me a question, or submitted a question to me that was, it was something like, I don't have my phone in front of me, but it was something like, if you had to eat one thing for a month, what would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. We play games like this all the time too.
I know.
Like I'll always be like, all right, babe, so like if you had to choose one restaurant to eat at for the rest of your life, what would it be? But if it was a specific item, like a specific thing, I don't know, because you not only do you have to like think about how delicious it would be, but you also have to think about like your overall health, because you're eating the same thing every day, all day long.
I'd probably say like a chicken salad, and then you could put different dressings on it.
That's actually super solid.
Put different vegetables in it.
You could switch it up for sure.
Yeah.
I'd probably say the same thing, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know how much I love my spinach berry salads. But yeah, no, I agree with you for sure.
Could make that for supper tonight.
We're not making supper tonight. We went over this. You get to chill, and we're going to do takeout tonight. But anyway.
Don't want to.
With that being said, somebody confessed and said, my fiance broke parole to go to a concert with me to see you. Shh. Well, I hope that your fiance didn't get fucking pinched for that.
Yeah.
I really respect the dedication that goes into risking your freedom just to come see me perform.
Yeah.
So shout out to your fiance for being the man. Shout out to you for being his sidekick.
Yeah.
And fuck the law. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, moving on now. Somebody says, big respect from Serbia. Follow me. Much love for you, Merc, and your wife. Not really a question, not really a confession, but we've been to Serbia before.
Yeah, we have.
Should we touch base on the nightmare that was our trip to Serbia? No shade to Serbia whatsoever.
No, Serbia was great. It's beautiful. Awesome people. We had a great time there. The show was lots of fun. We just had like a horrible
Basically, I'm just going to break
experience.
it down. So we were already on tour in Europe, and at the time I didn't have the best management in place, and we were told that we were going to land in Belgrade. Shout out to Belgrade. I've performed there as well before in the past, but we were told we were going to land in Belgrade, and then we were originally going to fly from Belgrade to, not Belgrade, from Bulgaria to Belgrade, Serbia, and then time went on. We're waiting to figure out our flight situation. Then we're told that we're going to be getting a ride from somebody, like a promoter or somebody involved in the show is going to pick us up and drive us there.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, I mean, that's not as quick and easy as a flight, but whatever it is, what it is, we'll take it. Time goes on. We're sitting there waiting. Then we get told that no longer are we getting picked up by somebody, but we have to take a fucking bus.
Yeah. And first off, we also need to talk about the fact that I was having the worst hangover that day.
And as people that listen to the show know, you don't drink. So
yeah, and we woke up that morning. We actually talked about this story, the Greece experience, where we got really twisted, day drunk on the rooftop.
Which was an amazing experience.
Yeah, but then we came
with a hangover that was ruthless.
We had to catch a flight at 5 a.m. So we're on our way to the airport, and I woke up and we were running late, always. And so I'm rushing around, and I didn't even feel hungover. And then we're taking our cab to the airport, and all of a sudden I'm like getting the spins, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to puke. Oh my God, I'm going to puke. We get to the airport. Cole starts unloading the bags, and I fucking dart it to a trash can, and I get sick because of the motion sickness from the vehicle.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, we need to fucking get somewhere so I can lay down. So we get into the airport. Literally every trash can I passed, I got sick in.
Yeah.
Literally. And at one point, I was laying there on a booth, and Cole's like, I think you need to go to the hospital. We got to take you to the hospital. And I was like, no, this is just how my hangovers are. This is why I don't fucking drink.
Yeah. And
this is horrible.
For me, obviously, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like, being hungover is being hungover. It fucking sucks. But, like, I've never seen somebody be hungover to an extent where, like, they literally had to lay down on a bench in an airport and couldn't stop puking. Like, I thought for a second, like, okay, maybe did she get, like, alcohol poisoning? Like, I just didn't know what it was.
I could barely even walk. Like, Cole's like carrying me around this airport.
Literally.
And we finally get on the plane. So I get motion sickness from being on planes too. So there I am still on the verge of getting sick, but just like telling myself, just go to sleep. So then we land, and then all this fuck around comes with our next traveling. And I'm like, can we just like get there?
Going,
like,
please.
I am dying right now. So then, we find out we have to take a bus, like a Greyhound bus.
Not only that, but we had to book it ourselves. So we had to find the booth where you like book your bus, and then we had to fucking give them our passports, and then they were asking to hold on to our passports, and we're like, that's kind of sketchy. Like, we're just going to leave our passports in this random place with these random people that claim that they're going to get our bus booked for us. Yeah. And then we had to sit there and wait forever for them to tell us.
We showed up at the bus depot at probably like 11 a.m.
Yeah.
And our bus wasn't booked until like 1:30 p.m.
And then we also had to go and find it, and it was just an absolute nightmare finding out which bus was ours. And unfortunately, there's obviously a huge language barrier there, so we can't just ask the average person, hey, where are we going? Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? Like, we'd have our ticket, and we'd try to show it to people, but a lot of people just weren't feeling our vibe. They knew that we weren't from there, and they basically, like just
Shrugged
based
us
on their
off.
mannerisms, told us to fuck off. You know what I mean?
And there was like this bus depot was really weird. It was like an outdoor indoor bus depot, so there was so many different little stations where all these different buses went to, so it was just so hard to figure out, first off, where's our bus stop, how do we figure out what bus we're taking, and
What seat are we going to be when we
Yeah,
get on that
exactly.
bus? Where do we put our luggage? Like, it was just an absolute nightmare. And then we finally find out which bus we're taking. We get on the bus, and we're officially moving at this point. You look around, there's like, we're the only people that you can tell weren't from there. Number one. Number two, Carissa and I, because it was so late in the game and such a last minute plan, we didn't even get to sit beside each other.
no, we did on this one. That was the next bus we had to take.
Oh yeah,
So
there was more
we,
than one.
yeah, and so
I try to block this whole thing out of my brain, so you probably remember certain parts of it better than I do.
So once we get on the bus, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe once he comes and checks all of our passports, he's gonna see we're from Canada, and he's gonna be like, oh, Canada, because over in Europe, everyone loves Canadians. Offense to the Americans.
They're not
but,
as fond of Americans as they are Canadians.
no offense, because we love everybody, but like, so anyways, the bus driver comes by, and more I'm thinking of this, so like the language barrier. So if we have any questions during this entire trip, I feel like I could talk to the bus driver.
Yeah.
So he grabs our
Or you
passports.
think you'd be able to. At
Yeah,
least.
and he kind of just like threw them back at us. Didn't really care. So I was like, okay, anyways. So whatever, we're finally on the bus. We start moving, and I don't know if we even knew at this point or if it was at the end of the ride altogether, but it ended up being a 12-hour bus ride.
Literally.
Yeah. And so again, here I am hungover, still like dying. So we start driving, and then we have our first pit stop, because on any Greyhound bus, they always stop
Anyone
at
that's
certain
taking a
places.
bus knows you take stops for bathroom and like to eat and shit like that.
And so I was like, I really need to go to the washroom, and Cole's like, me too. So we're like, hey, let's go. This is obviously a place where you go. So we get off, and we get to the little pay toll that you have to pay to use the washroom. And I give them a couple euros, and I walk into the bathroom, and all of a sudden I see like all this water all over the floor, and I'm like, okay, just don't think about it. Just get into a stall, go to the washroom, whatever. I'm not a big public washroom person to begin with. And so I walk in, and I look over, and it's just all these stalls and then holes in the ground.
Yeah.
And I was like,
And like, don't get me
Nope.
wrong, like obviously no shade to like everyone in Europe that grew up that way,
not
but
at
like,
all.
but
Not
it was
at all.
just, it was culture shock for us. You
It
know what I mean?
was,
It's just not
100%.
how we were used to going to the washroom. And like, with that being said too, like, for me, it's different when you're a guy. You can just pull your pecker out and just take a piss, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you're a girl, it's a lot different. And Carissa already has like anxiety when it comes to like going to the washroom in public anyway.
Yeah.
No matter where she is, never mind if we're in Europe and they're literally just holes in the ground beside random people.
And like Cole said, that's, not even just in Europe. That's in a lot of different places around the world. I just wasn't expecting it. So when I seen it, I was like, nope, not today. And I walked
today,
right
Sam.
out. And as I'm walking out, Cole's going into the washroom, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, nope, it's a hole in the ground. I'm going back on the bus.
And I remember Carissa like had these sunglasses on, so you couldn't really see her facial expression. But I just literally watched her pay the toll, walk in, and like just pivot, do a full 180, and walk right the fuck out. Like, nope, not happening.
Yeah, so that was the beginning of the experience.
Oh my
and then
god,
we
this story is just so intense.
It's a lot. So then we get back on the bus. We keep driving for quite a long time.
Hours.
Yeah, we were going through like these little villages, and we're seeing some pretty crazy stuff. And then
More culture shock to us.
yeah, exactly. And then we got to the border, and so we all had to get out of the bus with our passports and IDs and go through the border.
So this is the border from Bulgaria into Serbia.
Yeah, and it was a very run-down little kind of building.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like had an uneasy feel to it, I'm not gonna lie.
100%.
And
At this point, the driver was nice enough to at least insinuate that that's where we were and that we need to have our passport ready.
Yeah.
And was like actually kind of like having our back more than he did at the beginning, for
yeah,
sure.
which was good. And so then we go through the border, then we get back on the bus, we keep driving, then we go for another pit stop, and this one was gonna be about an hour. And so you had to get off the bus. You had no, like, they wouldn't allow you to stay on it because they lock the doors for safety reasons. So, you know, no theft or whatever. And so he's seen that I wasn't getting up out of my seat. And he's like, you got to go. And I was like, I don't want to. And he's like, flushing toilet. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Because he obviously seen me
eventually,
be
like
a bougie
said,
bitch.
started having our back and
yeah, turn around from the hole in the ground. So anyways, we did this 12-hour bus ride, and
they
it
were
was
playing
just,
like the most fucked up movie on the bus too.
Yeah, it was a little
like there was all these
inappropriate.
children and stuff on the bus, and like that's fine, whatever. But like the movie that was on was like there was like all these super aggressive like sex scenes and like
murder scenes.
And it was just like the most graphic shit ever. And I'm like, even for me, I'm like, whatever, that doesn't bother me. But I just looked around and was like, damn, there's like kids everywhere.
Yeah.
And this is like normal here. Like I don't know, it was just different. You know what I mean?
It was really,
like I said, not here to judge at all, but
No.
it was just major culture shock for us.
Yeah.
And then I remember we eventually finally got to Belgrade, and Belgrade is beautiful. It's an absolutely
beautiful.
amazing city, an amazing
castles
place.
everywhere.
Like literally like straight out of a fairy tale type
Yeah.
shit, like just castles everywhere. And like there was a bunch of wars going on back in the day there, so a lot of the buildings that were there, as beautiful as they were like riddled with like bullet holes and stuff from the war that they had. And I remember that like very specifically. But anyway, we got there and we're like, okay, now we need to meet up with the promoter. All I had was a phone number, didn't know anything about who it was. I just had to call this number, find out where we're going, and basically take a taxi. So we get off the bus, grab our stuff, call this number, and it's ringing, and then all of a sudden I hear, hello? Like no accent whatsoever, just, hey, what's up? And I'm like, oh, like all of a sudden language barrier gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the promoter was nice enough to be like, hey man, like I'm actually from Oakland, California. He's like, but my family's out here, so I'm out here. He's like, basically what was happening at the time was he owned this bar that was actually on a boat, and it was their last night, so they were actually closing, and he booked me to come out and be one of the acts that would perform on the boat for like the big closing blowout night kind of thing. And he told us not to take a cab, or not to take a certain cab, because they like will rip people off if they're foreign and charge you way more and just drive you around way longer than it takes to actually get to where you're going. So that was helpful. We eventually got there. We had a beautiful room.
Oh yeah,
everything
beautiful.
was awesome.
Nice
He was the
apartment.
man. Everything was great. And then it's showtime. So we're like, oh, okay, we're just going to go straight to the venue and jump on stage kind of thing is what I assumed, because it took us so long to get there that you'd think we were running behind.
Yeah, like we literally got there at midnight.
And to mind you, we haven't slapped a wink.
No.
Now not only was she hungover yesterday, but she's still probably feeling her hangover. Plus, we just did a 12-hour bus ride, so no sleep whatsoever. Like, we're literally, like, delirious. We're so tired.
Yeah.
So we get back to our hotel. We don't even really have, like, a second to blink. We go to the venue. We get to the venue. The venue, like I said, is on a boat. We're like, oh, shit, this is awesome. Super, super beautiful boat. All the like things you can imagine, like all the alcohol for free, and of course that's the last thing on our minds at the time, but like just well taken care of, like gave us a really awesome rider. And then we sat, and he said, oh, you're going on at 12:30 p.m. and I'm like, okay. And in Europe, you guys have to understand that what you're used to in Canada and America and Australia, everywhere else, you're on stage at like 10 or 11 p.m. Like out there 12:30 is still early, so we're thinking we're on just after midnight. We get there, and then 12:30 rolls around, and then he says 1 more hour, and then 1 more hour goes by, and then he says 1 more hour, and I don't actually end up getting on stage until like 3:30, 4 a.m. in the morning, and we're so fucking beat at this point.
So tired.
And not only that, but this boat is full of like party goers that are like used to like dubstep and shit. Like you look at the crowd and you're like, these people aren't Mercules fans.
Aren't hip hop.
And this guy was like, I think this guy was just a fan of mine and was just like, yo, I'm doing this for myself. I don't really care what anyone thinks. And I thought that was rad of him. But at this point, at that point in time, my set was like me ripping my shirt off and like aggressively like rapping in your face type shit. Like that's the style I was on at the time. So it was just so funny watching people be like, who the fuck is this guy?
This big white guy.
Covered in tattoos. What the fuck is this guy doing taking his shirt off? It was hilarious. And then anyway, we finished the show, and then we get off the boat, and then we're just trying to go home at this point. We're like, just get us back to the hotel, please. We jump in a cab. Think about the same story of when we first got there and how cabbies are kind of different out there. The guy said, me and Carissa are in the back. We tell him where we're going, and we're both like, oh, we're just so tired, blah, blah, blah. We just keep saying how tired we are. And the guy goes, oh, I can fix that, and tries to sell us cocaine. Yeah. And we're like, nah, man, like, thanks or whatever, but we're not trying to, like, buy any blow right now. We're just trying to go to bed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because we were so tired when we arrived at our hotel / Airbnb, whatever you want to call it, when we got back there and he drove us back there, we didn't even know where we were anymore. We're like,
didn't
which door was
remember
it? Like, what building was it? Like, it was absolutely a fucking nightmare. And all we had was this key, like an actual key, not like a fucking...
Yeah, because it was an apartment building.
Yeah. And so we're like literally in Serbia at 5 a.m, just rolling up to random doors, trying to stick keys in until we found the right one. Then we eventually found it. We went upstairs. We passed out and had to be up super early to go and fly from Serbia directly to Italy because we had a show in Milan, Italy the next day.
Yeah.
So, whatever, didn't get the best sleep obviously because it wasn't long enough, but whatever, we're happy we're going to Italy. Been there before. I'm
Not
excited.
Milan though, I was so excited
Yeah,
for Milan.
and it's like the fashion capital of the world.
Yeah.
I believe the world. Anyway, so then we fucking, this poor guy that brought up Serbia is like, holy fuck, they're still going on my thing. But no, so then we go to Milan, we get on the plane, we find out we're first class. We're not used to first class at this point. We're like, oh shit.
We were on top of the fucking world.
So we're sitting there in first class drinking wine and fucking, well, I was drinking wine, Carissa wasn't, and like eating steak, just living life, so comfortable compared to what we just went through. And then we land and we're like, okay, we knew we were running a little bit behind. We were also meeting some friends there. Shout out to Junk, who was coming out from Canada, who's a friend of mine who actually is Italian. And he came out there to do a couple of these shows with us. So we were linking with him, excited to see him as well, obviously. Nice to see some people from home.
Yeah.
And then, and then we get off the plane and then we're standing there and we're waiting in customs. And then right before it's our turn to go through customs, all of a sudden I'm like, babe, can you pass me my passport? Like, it's about that time. And she goes, I don't have your passport. And of course, me being the cheeky boyfriend, I'm like, yeah, of course I gave you my passport. I put it in your purse. Like, what do you mean? And she's like, no, you fucking didn't.
Yeah.
And then I reach through all my stuff. I'm going through it. I can't find my passport. And then all of a sudden it just clicks in my head like, I'm pretty sure I left my passport. You know when you're on the airplane, like you put things in the sleeve in front of you? We were so comfortable in first class that I was pretty sure I just slid my passport in the sleeve in front of us. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. Carissa's crying. I'm freaking out. We're having a panic attack. All there is a phone there saying you can call for help if you need help. We're talking to random flight attendants trying to get it all together.
We're going back to Serbia.
And that's the thing is if you don't have a passport, they're deporting you back to where you came from. So we would have been going back to Serbia and not knowing what we're doing or where we're going.
How are we getting home?
Exactly. How are we getting home? What are we doing about the rest of this tour? Like all this shit. So anyway, we asked this person for help. This flight attendant does what she can. And then she all of a sudden out of nowhere, like 20 minutes later, I'd say half an hour maybe.
Yeah.
Which felt like 4 or 5 hours because we were freaking out. This pilot, like the fucking pilot himself, starts walking up, slapping my passport on his hand, staring at me like, you fucked up. And I'm like, oh my God. So he walks up, he gives it to me politely and basically says, never make that fucking mistake again. We come to find out that this plane was about to go somewhere else, was like on the fucking runway, about to leave somewhere else. And this guy was nice enough to stop it and give us our passport.
Turn around the plane.
Absolutely fucking insane.
Come back and give us the passport.
And then we finally get through. And at this point, we know we're late for the show because we've had all this shit happening. We're running behind again with no rest. So we meet the promoter. The promoters were nice guys, but great people, but like they just had a different energy that we weren't used to. So we jump in the car, and I remember getting in the car with Carissa, and I look in the front seat, and both these guys are just chopping up blow, and I'm like, okay, all right, this is the vibe these guys are on.
Yeah.
In an airport, like where like you pick people up, these guys are just chopping up leaners. Okay, whatever. And they look back, would you like some? We're like, no, we're cool. Thanks for the offer. They just do a couple Hollywoods. And then all of a sudden we hit the road and we know we're behind. So they have to bring us to our hotel. We have to drop our stuff off. Then we have to go straight to the venue and then perform. So we quickly drop our stuff off. We didn't even have time to shower. I think I may have squeezed a quick one in just anyway because I just needed it that bad. And then I remember we hit the road. But on the way to the hotel, like what should have been a 25, 30-minute drive was like a 7-minute drive. We come to find out that these guys are fucking, like, they do illegal street racing.
Yeah.
And we're like...
From Estonia.
From Estonia. They're not even from fucking Italy or Milan, Italy, where we were. So these guys are like just some shit you'd see in Fast and the Furious.
It was crazy.
They're just high as fuck on coke. We're in the back seat squeezing onto each other. And these guys are like, get us there in 7 minutes. Should have been 30 minutes, whatever. Drop our shit off, go straight to the venue, get backstage, see Junk and his girl at the time. We're so happy to see them because, like I said, familiar faces. And then, of course, Junk fucking speaks Italian, so he's on stage killing it, freestyling in Italian. The show ended up going fine. It was great. Everybody that took care of us was awesome. But that was definitely a crazy fucking tour experience for us. Yeah. And
Yeah. So we just had to get that one out the way. We've always talked about talking about that same
The Serbia
experience
trip, yeah.
on the pod. So now we can officially say that we have. But yeah, it was a fucking crazy thing for sure.
It was nuts. It was so
something I'll never
nuts.
forget. But it's just part of our story. And that's like the thing is too is me and you were together for how long at that point? Would you say?
Probably like 3 years.
Two or three.
Yeah.
But my point is we realized at that time, like, yo, if we made it through that together, we can make it through anything together.
Yeah.
Somebody else says mac and cheese, powdered or shredded cheese. Let's talk about it. I have a group chat with my friends on Facebook, and this is one of my friends who submitted this. I'm not going to say who, but we had a whole debate about this. I said that I prefer the powdered cheese just because it's creamier. If you shred the cheese and put it in your mac and cheese, like, yo, all the power to you, but I just don't like the texture as much, and it's a fucking nightmare cleaning the pot afterwards. So I'm rolling with shredded 100%.
Yeah, I like me a homemade mac and cheese gourmet with the shredded and the creamy sauce and the baked yummy goodness. I do
You know what's
prefer
real
that.
when she drops the G-bomb about the gourmet.
But when it comes to the powdered mac and cheese, I definitely love the Annie's more than the KD. It's just so much better, and I discovered it about a year ago. And yeah, if I have to go powdered, I'm going mac and cheese.
100%.
Or Annie's mac and cheese.
It's okay. We're flailing a bit. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's what the people came here to see. Somebody
Here.
asked... Good point. Somebody asked, who would Carissa want to see you record with? So when I read that, I'm assuming that means like collab with in the future, like someone that you'd be like, oh, that's fucking awesome.
We've already done a lot of my own personal bucket list, like
favorites.
So many. I mean, the big obvious would be like Eminem or Drake.
Yeah,
for sure.
Also on the top of my personal list.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like those are two really high ones. I mean, obviously, like Snoop Dogg, that would be fucking sick.
Yeah,
I think it would actually be really cool if you and Akon did a song together because I'm a pretty big fan of Akon. So
me too. That's a random one for sure. One that people wouldn't expect you to say, but
yeah, but I miss his music. Like Akon, come back.
And Akon like ran the 2000s.
100%.
Akon and T-Pain, like they didn't miss once.
Oh, T-Pain would be a good one too.
But they didn't miss once that whole time.
No.
That's interesting.
Ludacris would be pretty cool too.
I would love to work with Ludacris. I know he's like more doing his movie thing now, but if I could get him in the booth, I would definitely be a bucket list thing for me for sure. Somebody said life's been throwing quite a few curveballs my way for some years, and it's getting difficult. Clearly, it's a confession. I want to say that, especially right now, like I was saying earlier on the mental health stuff, like I know that right now is just really trying times for most people. Whether that's financially or just in general, being in quarantine, or I'm not sure where he's from or if he is in quarantine, but just know that like one thing that I always say, and I think I've even mentioned this before, like everything that's going on right now, 90% of what you're dealing with right now, you won't even be thinking about whether it's a year from now or a couple years down the road. I mean, obviously there's some things that are so extreme that you're never going to forget it, and it's going to be something that comes up in your mind a lot, but I just feel like a lot of the stuff that we worry about right now, you'll look back at, it could even be next week, a few months, or a year, or years down the road, and just be like, wow, like that's crazy that it bothered me that much and I'm not even thinking about it now. You know what I mean? Like I feel like no matter what, if you apply the right mindset, there is always going to be like that pot of gold at the end of the road. You just got to like really make sure that you can stay positive. And as cliche as that sounds and as hard as that sounds, I just really believe in that and feel like that's the case. But
yeah, I agree. In the words of Ryan Bell, this too shall pass.
That's her dad, by the way, for everyone wondering. But yeah, exactly. Like I have time will tell tattooed. I think this too shall pass. There's a lot of very short quotes that make so much sense.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And just, try and keep your head up and stay positive and, it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to have a hard day.
And
but
like you said, it's okay to not be okay too.
Yeah, and, reach out to whoever you can if you need that pick-me-up, if you need that vent. And yeah, just...
And if you don't have an immediate support system and feel like you have nobody, just know that there's other people going through the same thing and that we have your back 100%.
Yes, and we have bad days too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Bad weeks, bad months. It happens.
Somebody said I had to pee in a cup in my car with my boyfriend because I could not hold it anymore. I feel like Carissa, if we didn't get that toilet on that trip to Serbia, maybe you would have had to pee in a cup.
Oh my God.
You never know.
I don't know if I'm even skilled enough to do that.
But we've talked about this before, and like it's a lot easier in a guy's situation. Like if you're a guy, you can just whip your peck out, like I said, and just pee in a bottle or whatever. But it's a lot different for girls. So
yeah. So props
shout
to
out
you,
to
girl.
you for confessing that, and props to you for getting through that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
exactly.
saying? Somebody else said, I have a closeted eating disorder, and my fiance has no idea. First of all, I want to say props to you for being strong enough to even say that out loud, never mind to us. I mean, I know it's an anonymous confession, but at the same time, even saying it out loud or typing it or what have you, like, is a big step in general because you're admitting that it's a problem, and acceptance is definitely key. I can only imagine how hard that is for you. It's not something that I struggle with. I mean, I do struggle with like my weight, and of course, like I get insecure about it, but it's never gotten to a point where there's been an eating disorder necessarily. But just know that there's a lot of people going through what you're going through, and we pray that you get through that. And if you've made this person your fiance, then I can only assume that if one day you decide to tell them, that they're going to support you and have your back 100%. So if you're listening, which I'm sure you are, we have your back 100%.
Yeah, 100%. And you're beautiful, and I know it's not easy to remind yourself that, and just know that you are beautiful inside and out, and food is not the enemy. No. And again, same thing.
And I can see your profile picture here where you submitted your question, and you definitely are, your confession, and you definitely are beautiful.
Yeah. And you know what, if there's maybe different ways you could talk about it with your fiance, even if that's not flat out coming out and saying, you know, I have this, just I'm struggling with this. Insecure. Yeah, just, you know, just tell them that you are having some hard times, having some hard thoughts about yourself, and you know, you never know what could come out of that conversation, and opening up his eyes to your struggle, you know, again, even if it's not straight up saying this is what I am fully struggling with.
Even if it's to the extreme or the extent that it's at least you can let him know that you're dealing with some stuff and that you need that support. Yeah.
Opening that door is always the right thing to do, to feel that comfort, feel that safety, and you just never know what could come up from it.
Exactly. Someone says, how often does Cole end up in the doghouse? Been there a few times. Not my favorite place to be. Try not to stay too long when I am there. Every guy's been in the doghouse before, I feel like, at some point. Some guys might hate me for saying this, but 90% of the time we put ourselves in that doghouse, and it's not always easy to come back out of. But
he'll only admit that on the podcast.
Yeah, she's whatever.
Next time he's in the doghouse, it'll be.
And then Chris is gonna be like, "Remember what you said on the pod? 90% of the time."
Stop it.
I'm just kidding. Somebody said, one time I almost hit a guy with my truck because I was checking out a girl's ass.
Whoa. That's crazy.
Oh my God. Respect to you for being honest. Shout out to the fact that you didn't hit anybody.
Yeah.
And if you're going to keep your eyes on the prize, just maybe do it when you're not behind the wheel. You know what I'm saying?
On the prize.
Don't do it when you're behind the wheel.
Yeah,
butts.
I agree.
Work on that.
I agree.
I feel like that's quite a bit of questions. Do you want to address one or two more maybe?
Yeah, maybe one more.
Okay.
I mean, our Serbia story was pretty long, so we could wrap it up.
For sure, 100%, but it's okay. What's the coolest thing that you've done with a celebrity? If you can't reveal a name, you can keep it anonymous.
I haven't really done much with celebrities.
I got a couple, but I don't know if I should just air them out on here.
We don't have to say their name.
I got two. One, I did 100 shots of tequila with MGK and his drummer Rook.
Oh, yeah.
That was really fun. And I also did Molly with Diplo.
Oh, my God.
And those were both very fun nights from what I remember. Good times or whatever. And I don't even think Diplo did the Molly, but I was on Molly and I met Diplo and ended up kicking it with him. And then you were there when we got drunk with Lil Dicky. That was another one that was awesome. Oh, yeah.
That was good. I was a little fucked up, so I was kind of like nervous around him.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, there was a lot going on that would have made you nervous anyway. And
yeah.
Him being there just...
he was kind of very to himself.
He was super to himself. Yeah. And like, to be honest, I kind of respected that because, like, as outgoing and funny as he is, as like the character he is, I do believe that's truly him genuinely. But like, I just thought it was cool that he wasn't the guy that's just like chasing groupies and being that guy.
Yeah,
like,
and
he
you
was
guys
just
got
super
some
chill.
really good one-on-one time. You guys chilled a lot. Me and Tommy were mainly hanging out.
Yeah, you guys were like having your girl time and we were having our bro time.
Yeah.
But one thing I do got to call Lil Dicky out on is he did walk out on his bill that night. I am going to put you on blast 100% because number one, I'm not mad about it. I paid the bill 100% after you left, but just know that I respect the fact that you did a whole song about saving money and you talk about how you openly will just walk out on bills and then you just kept it real. You know what I mean? Like you did in real life what you said you would do in a song. So it's like, how can I even be mad at that? You know what I mean? And don't worry, I tipped your waitress. But so those are 3 experiences that I feel like I can talk about that were fun.
I have a funny one actually.
Okay, what's up?
I know he doesn't like to consider himself a celebrity, but back in, 2010, maybe 2011 actually, I met Hobson.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. We were at his show and watching the opening acts.
In little old Red Deer, Alberta.
Yeah, little Red Deer, Alberta. And all of a sudden, I was like looking around the crowd for some reason because I was at the front. And I seen his glowing eyes and I seen him like behind me and I was like, why is he in the crowd right now? And so I asked him for a picture and so I got a picture with him and so did my cousin. And then he went on stage, killed it, and the show was done. So then just like any other venue turns into like a club.
Yeah.
And so they were just like playing music and everyone's dancing and my cousin and I are just like chilling and all of a sudden we look over and he's just like hanging out all to himself in the back corner of this club, like very much like Lil Dicky, like very to himself, wasn't like all thirsty over just like groupies
literally
or
zero
like
ego.
fans.
Zero ego.
And just like chilling. And my cousin's like, well, what is he doing? I was like, I don't know. He's just like sitting there. She's like, well, should we go ask him to dance? And I was like, okay. And so we walked up and she actually asked him, do you want to dance? And because I had a boyfriend at the time. And so there I was on the dance floor. My cousin's dancing with Hobson, and I'm dancing beside them. And we're like, this is cool. And he was just really nice and super chill. And we only hung out for a little bit. But, like, yeah, it was crazy.
We got to tell him that story. Because, like, now, obviously, him and I work closely together, and he's, like, a friend of mine. And I'd met him many times in that same period of time.
Yeah.
Like, when I didn't even know you.
Yeah.
But, like, I'd done a few shows with him kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now that he's, like, actually, like, a close friend, like, I should tell him about that story.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd laugh.
Yeah, I'm sure he would, too. He'd be like, what the fuck? Like,
Well, shout out to Hobson, shout out to Lil Dicky, and shout out to all people who are in the spotlight and have zero ego.
Are so chill and, like,
chill
just act like normal people. And Tech Nine's the same way. Him
Tech
and Chris
is
Calico
100%.
are like so chill,
100%.
so sweet, so genuine. Jelly Roll's the same way.
100%.
Like, you know, and I don't even think these people would classify themselves as celebrities, but like they are.
It's just like when people tell me like, what's it like being famous? Like, I know that like I've grown a lot and like yes, I'm like there's a lot of eyes on me, but
we
like
don't really say
still
that
it's like
much.
I would never say that myself. You know what I mean?
We don't call you a celebrity. We don't say that you're famous.
I just feel like certain words like that are so corny. Anyway.
Yeah, and it's just like spotlight or in the public eye.
I prefer social media influencer.
Oh,
no,
stop it!
I'm just kidding.
Not at all.
I'm just joking. I'm joking. But anyway, I think that was fun.
Yeah, that was
Thank
good.
you for having me on the show again.
Thanks for coming back.
And I'm down to be here anytime that you want me on here because I always have a good time when I am on here. And
I'm thinking next time, instead of questions and answers and confessions, I mean, we can still do that if you guys want to send more in. But
I think it's just it's super personal to the fans. Like, they love being able to...
sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And you guys send more in. But I'm also thinking about doing a Would You Rather segment with Cole.
Okay.
So you guys could send in some crazy Would You Rathers, too. I have
That's going to get greasy.
Yeah, I have some in my notebook and already, like... planned out. But yeah, if you guys want to send in more questions, more confessions, some would you rathers, please do. And yeah, thanks for coming on, babe. Thanks for hanging out.
Of course, happy to be here. And I'm excited to see what kind of would you rathers get brought up in the future.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy.
Got a little bit of anxiety, but I'm ready for it.
It'll be good. And happy Mental Health Awareness Month.
100%.
Everybody, check up on your friends. Keep talking mental health. And let's break this fucking stigma.
100%.
It's okay to not be okay.
I agree.
Okay, well, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay positive, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Something classic, something special.